Hello everyone. In this session, we will be doing again some three important things in coordinate geometry which you have not done in case of plane geometry in detail. And first of them is locus of a point. Locus is actually heart of coordinate geometry, right? So we need to take it separately. Locus word, though you have learned in plane geometry, can you recall that where we have done locus? Either by drawing a circle using compass, or you have done, I precisely remember one example you must have surely done in case of locus in plane geometry, that if two points A and B are given to you and a point P moves such that it is equidistant from point A and point B all the time, then how does point P move? This kind of thing you have already done. Can you recall that? How does point P move in that case? It moves on perpendicular bisector of join of A and B. So what I'm trying to say here is that locus word perhaps is not new to you. You have used in case of plane geometry, but the approach what we have in coordinate geometry perhaps could be totally different, because here we are going to use coordinates. So let us start with locus of a point. So what is the definition? Definition says that locus of a point is the path traced by a moving point. And when I say traced, of course, there is some condition, not necessarily one, it could be more than one condition also. So basically, a point moves under some given conditions, and whatever path would be generated, that would be called locus. Okay, so basically, we are expecting that locus to be a curve. Now, when I say curve, please do not misunderstand that straight line, if I do further, then straight line is not a curve. No, even straight line comes under a curve, right? So basically, locus of a moving point is expected to be a curve. Now, if I take an example and if I say that a point moves such that its distance from a fixed point is always 6 units. Now, is it at only one point that happens? If I'm showing here point A as the fixed point and distance from point A as 6 units, now does it show that only at one point something like this is going to happen? Actually, that doesn't happen only at one point. All those points which are on the circumference of that circle with radius 6 and center at A, they all would be satisfying the condition that their distances from point A is 6 units. Realize? Understand? So understand this, that here the path generated is nothing but a circle, and that circle would be called now locus. Correct? Now proceed from here and try to get equation of locus. See, the entire coordinate geometry is full of equations. Now basically, if you ask me, my standard explanation about coordinate geometry is that coordinate geometry is nothing but algebra of plane geometry. When I say algebra, I mean in algebra you have seen x and y's, right? So I am saying that you try to write algebraic expressions for those geometrical entities. Like in my previous session, we tried to write one point as x comma y. So we try to give that address in terms of x and y to that point. Similarly, here onwards, for different curves, we will be writing equations, and all those equations come under equation of locus. Now, what we mean by equation of locus? That if point P, if it has coordinates x comma y, and if I am trying to get one equation in x and y, which is satisfied by point P. When I say satisfied means whatever x and y are appearing in the equation on the say left hand side and right hand side is 0, suppose, then here I am saying point P satisfies if point is on the locus, and points which are not on the locus, they will not satisfy equation of the locus. That is extremely important, situation. Now, if I have shown there in the figure, which I have not yet removed, that circle, points which are on the circle, they will satisfy equation of the circle. I know you right now do not know equation of the circle, how it is to be written, but for a moment, think that you know the equation of circle part. If you know equation of the circle, all those points which are on the circle, they will satisfy equation of the circle. Means two sides would become identical when you substitute coordinates of all those points which are on the circle. What will happen to the points which are inside, I mean in the interior part of the circle or exterior? Their distance of the points which are in the interior of the circle, their distances from that fixed point, point A, will not be 6, obviously. So those points will not satisfy equation of the locus. I hope you are getting my point, what I am saying. Points which are on the locus, they satisfy equation of the locus, and I have deliberately shown there in the red part, points which are not on the locus will not satisfy equation on the of the locus. I mean, this is the thin margin between equation of the path and equation of the locus. Equation of the path actually is different from equation of the locus. In equation of the locus, this part needs to be seen. Points which are not on the locus, they do not satisfy equation of the locus. I think this is good enough. Let us move further from here. And the next one is that we go for obviously one illustration minimum on this, and we have to find equation of locus of a point. Sum of its distances from two fixed points 0, 2 and 0, -2 is given to be 6, and we are asked to find equation of the locus. Now how do we proceed? Moving point we do not know, so I start, say point P, which is a moving point, is given as h, k, and we are expected to find locus of this moving point. Okay, two fixed points are given to you, 0, 2, 0, -2. And what is the condition? See, locus comes with the condition. Condition is sum of distances PA and PB is given to be 6. Now what do you have to do? Use distance formula. In place of P, you are going to take nothing but h, k. In place of A, you are going to take 0, 2. In place of B, you are going to take 0, -2. Substitute and simplify. Now there are so many square roots appearing there. Obviously, we are expected to simplify by squaring. And by squaring, what we get is again one equation where again one square root is appearing. -8k -36 equal to square root something, right? With negative sign. Now to get rid of that square root, I think I need to square once more. And by squaring further and simplifying, I will get finally one equation, 9h square plus 5k square equal to 45. Mind you, please, till now everything is perfectly fine. Now what happens? I may start with h, k. Some other person may start with p, q. Right? So his equation would be in terms of P and Q. So conventionally, we write final equation in terms of X and Y, because all over the world, it is universally accepted that equation is written in terms of X and Y. So what we do, we will write final answer as locus of h, k is given as 9x square plus 5y square equal to 45. That would be my final answer as equation of locus of moving point P. I think you have understood. Whenever you write equation of locus, take that point as h, k. Your final equation is expected to be in terms of only h and k. If any other name you have given anywhere, that will have to be eliminated, correct? And lastly, when you get final equation in h and k, replace h by x and replace k by y, and final equation in terms of x and y. Okay, let us proceed further, and that is another important thing of coordinate geometry, that is shifting of origin. And in shifting of origin, we are expecting at least one axis, set of axis, and with respect to that axis, I have written there point P with coordinates as x, y. And we know what we mean by small x, we know what we mean by small y. And what happens, now I shift that origin from position O to O dash. If that happens, then how picture would change? Because position O dash with respect to the old one is shown as h, k. And with respect to the new set of axes, I am showing coordinates as capital X and capital Y. Now there has to be some relation between capital X and small x. And that relation is small x is capital X plus h, which you can see from the figure, and small y is capital Y plus k. Now understand this. Whenever you are given some equation in small x and small y, and question is related to origin is shifted from its usual position 0, 0 to say 2, 3. If that happens, then your h would be 2 and k would be 3. Substitute that h and k here, and in place of small x, you will be writing capital X plus h, and in place of small y, you will be writing capital Y plus k. And your new equation would be in terms of capital X and capital Y. Mind you, please, I'm not saying now h and k, because h and k would be given in the problem as numbers. So you can get one new equation with respect to new frame of reference. So shifting of origin is important from that point of view. That if origin shifts to some other place, equation doesn't remain same. Of course, even equation will change. Okay. Now next important point is rotation of axis. I mean, it is little cumbersome to understand at initial stage. Keep revising it. You will get hold on this also. Rotation of axis means some two axes I need to draw as x-axis, y-axis. With respect to this x-axis, y-axis, I am showing point P with coordinates small x and small y. And now the condition is I need to rotate the axis, say with angle theta in anti-clockwise direction, and origin is not to be changed. So picture would look something like this. That now new axis I am showing as x dash, y dash, etc. And with respect to the new set of axis, I am showing capital X and capital Y. Now the thing is, in books, after rotation, what is new X coordinate and new Y coordinate, they are capital X and capital Y. Directly formulae are given for capital X and capital Y. I expect you to understand that, and then if you wish, you can remember them as formulae. What I try to do here is, first I try to write some relation between small x, capital X, etc. And I understand that I can see certain, like distances, that I can show small x, I can show capital X cos theta, I can show capital Y sin theta in the figure. And if you see carefully, we realize that small x, right, plus capital Y sin theta would be nothing but capital X cos theta. And from there, I write small x as capital X cos theta minus capital Y sin theta. Correct? Now, similarly, can we write some expression for small y also? And for that, I do the next exercise. I show capital Y cos theta in the picture. I show capital X sin theta in the picture. And if you add them together, you will get small y. So, small y is capital X sin theta plus capital Y cos theta. Correct? Actually, we need capital X and capital Y in terms of small x and small y. Then only you will be able to answer the question. And for that, you treat these two particular equations as two simultaneous equations and try to write capital X in terms of small x and small y and capital Y in terms of small x and small y, and get new expressions as capital X equal to small x cos theta plus small y sin theta, and capital Y as small y cos theta minus small x sin theta. Now, if you want to remember them as formulae, choice is entirely yours. But perhaps had I been in your position, I would have started with the first equation and then try to get capital X and capital Y. So this is about rotation of axis. I mean, these three things were important for today's lecture. That is locus, nothing. And then second one was shifting of origin and rotation of axis. Now, please revise them. I mean, they look very simple, small entities of coordinate geometry, but they suddenly appear somewhere. So please get hold on them. Hope you enjoyed the session. If you have liked the video, please click to subscribe on this side. And if you want to place the order for the book, please click on this side. Thank you.